Regigigas can really start whittling down resources, taking out big KOs, and then all of a sudden you have nothing left for the back, and then that just continues sweeping. So let's get over to this match to see how Gabriel is going to be responding to this. So out on this end, we will see that Weezing Regigigas to start that infamous combination, going up against Gabriel's Charizard and Whimsicott here.
So Weezy and Regigigas makes a lot of sense here. I think the only thing you're really worried about if you're Alberto is that Zacian lead right away. And so Zacian and Dosen come out, Gabriel opting to try to just G-Max Wildfire. And considering the sunny day, I really like this option. What can make this really dicey is the speed interaction between Regigigas and Charizard. We were just talking about speed ties, and both of these actually have base 100 speed and typically will beat max speed here. So we'll have to see who actually ends up going first. But I love the decision to just go for sunny day and G-Max Wildfire. The Regigigas shouldn't be able to actually get a one-hit KO onto the Charizard here, and I think we've seen that Alberto's Weezing is a little bit bulkier, so even after a speed drop, I'm not sure you can just, move before Charizard or the Whimsicott can attack. So even if Gabriel loses the potential speed tie here, you still get the Sunny Day off and the Wildfire into the Weezing. That might just be enough to pick up the KO on turn 1, and if you get rid of Weezing, suddenly Regigigas is significantly weaker going into the next couple of turns.
Yeah, that slow start ability, I mean, it's so powerful shut off, but if that Weezing goes down, the Regigigas is left useless out on the field here. Whimsicott going for that sunny day, of course, as we saw, and it'll be interesting to see. We saw that the Regigigas maxed first here. Is it also going to move forward? It is not. So the RSB tied and that Charizard winning the coin flip the second time around. A huge hit, critical hit, mind you, into that Weezing here, and it goes down, and this Regigigas is going to be not faring too well as that slow start ability turns on, halving its attack and speed. Does hit that max strike into the Charizard, but doing pitiful damage in comparison to what you would normally see here.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly how you want to go up against Regigigas Weezing, right? I think yesterday when we saw Alberto play on stream, a lot of his opponents just weren't able to actually effectively knock out Weezing early on. Now, Alberto could have just protected Weezing on turn 1. Maybe wasn't expecting to actually faint from the Sunny Day and the Wildfire combination. That was a critical hit, and this Charizard notably doesn't have Life Orb, so I'm wondering maybe Weezing actually could survive if it's like fully invested in HP and special defense there. But critical hit there just ensures the knockout, and like you mentioned, Sierra, this Regigigas now really not doing very much damage. Did get a speed drop on both of these Pokemon. That actually could be really important. This looks like a really, really good start for Gabriel, but now you just want to push the lead even further, right? Go for a Tailwind potentially on that Whimsicott to outspeed. And the main question is, Alberto certainly has Calyrex Shadow Rider in the back. You just want to make sure you can outspeed it and KO it in this end game. So positioning yourself to do that will be really, really critical.
Gabriel here opting to go the Tailwind and just tacking into the Urshifu. The Regigigas, of course, can go for things like Strike to knock down the speed, but other than that, it's not really putting too much pressure on. That Urshifu will go for the Sucker Punch just to pick up some chip into that Charizard here, as Tailwind does get set up. Charizard with that max Airstream. I mean, bringing Urshifu right down to its sash here. Will get to stick around. Well, actually, no, there's going to be the Wildfire, so the sash doesn't even matter at this point. Getting that Wildfire on that first turn is just going to be absolutely huge here. The Regigigas going for that max strike into the Whimsicott, dealing a good amount of damage, bringing it down to the red, but unable to pick up that KO here.
Yeah, notably going for that max strike over something like that max Hailstorm, I think that's smart. You actually really want to get as many speed drops as possible. Gabriel's going for those max Airstreams to kind of negate it, but I think this obviously is such a monumentous lead for Gabriel. If Alberto wants to win this game, you have to manage to stall out the Tailwind, and then Calyrex really has to clean up. If Gabriel has Umbreon in the back, this game feels like a wrap, honestly, because even with Calyrex plus Regigigas with the slow start activated, just feels like it can't do very much into an Umbreon, which gets access to, that Foul Play and that Snarl. So we'll have to see which Pokemon Gabriel opted for the back. We know there's that Assault Vest Landorus as well. That can be solid. Zacian, I think we should certainly expect to see. But yeah, one thing that's really interesting here is you've been able to get a fair amount of damage. You have that Wildfire off as well. I think Calyrex at this point basically really needs to stall out Tailwind, so it feels like you need to go for protect, maybe even multiple protects to come out of the turns and actually have some HP remaining. So we'll have to see right now. One thing that's actually interesting is that, yeah, I think Charizard's at -1 speed, but Tailwind is up. Calyrex is at neutral. My question is, I think Charizard and Calyrex here might actually speed tie. If my math is correct, and Calyrex is max speed, they're both 222 speed. So there's a chance Calyrex can actually go first here before Charizard, and that would be huge.
Whimsicott going before both of them getting a little bit of damage. Calyrex does go first despite that tailwind and the Charizard's best efforts to get up that speed. Picks up that double KO here. Whimsicott, Charizard both going down. That and the Calyrex, of course, with the Grim Nate as well, getting a huge special attack boost here. And man, that's not what you want to see in a late game here. We were talking before the game how dangerous a late game Calyrex could be, and sure enough, that Calyrex comes out on the field just causing havoc.
Yeah, and Sierra, there's no Umbreon here either, which means Gabriel didn't actually end up bringing any Pokemon that resist Ghost, right? And so that's why I thought Umbreon could be an interesting pick, but you can certainly understand why Gabriel probably didn't feel super comfortable bringing it into a matchup when you're going up against a Regigigas, a Weezing with Taunt, and an Urshifu. But yeah, Calyrex actually moves before that Charizard, and I think typically both of these Pokemon are going to want to be max speed, so I think that actually very likely was a speed tie. If Charizard goes first there, then the game should just instantly be over. Now you've got Zacian and Garchomp. You still have a couple turns of Tailwind to work with, so Calyrex, I think to win this game now, needs to protect multiple turns in order to pull this comeback off.
It was nice on Gabriel's side that the Whimsicott didn't opt to Tailwind right off of the bat, which means it does get extended out later into the match as well. Garchomp going, of course, for that Rock Slide is going to connect onto that Regigigas, picking up a little bit of chip damage. Slow Start is still active, of course, so Regigigas returning back with an Ice Punch and just barely missing that KO there. That Slow Start really hurting it, despite how much Garchomp hates Ice types attacks. It's able to hold on and stick around for another turn here.
Oh, this is going to be a close finish. I believe there's still one more turn of Tailwind here, so Alberto needs to get the double protect off right now with Calyrex to win the game. And then you just win the game with an Astral Barrage. Let's see, does it get it? It does!
It hits the double protect. Calyrex gets to stick around to wait out that last turn of it Tailwind here, and wow, that is such a big, that's a 1 in 3 chance. That's such a big double protect here to close out the game. Missing that would surely just match done there, but this Calyrex managing to hold on, and this Garchomp going down as well with its own life orb damage. So just this Calyrex against this poor Zacian here.
Yeah, and we've seen this Calyrex is very speedy, so should be able to just outspeed Zacian. Its already base speed is higher. It's gotten so many increased stages of special attack as well, so Astral Barrage here should pick up the knockout. The Zacian is actually very bulky. It has max HP investment based off its HP stat, but Calyrex just is so strong. This is a single target Astral Barrage as well, so this is why you never give up, right? Alberto, even though he had a really, really tough turn 1, was able to claw back into this, correctly going for those max strike speed drops and putting himself in a position where if, the rolls go in your favor, if you win that speed tie and get a double protect off, yeah, now, you can just win the game. The odds of that are obviously slim, but it is a win condition, and in the end, Alberto recognized that those were the two things that he needed to go in his favor to win this game. So, yeah, I mean, chance of winning that speed tie is basically 50-50. Like you mentioned, chance of getting that double protect, 1 in 3. So it's a 1 in 6 chance to win the game, and that's, you take those, especially after how brutal the start of turn 1 was. And yeah, what a comeback here by Alberto in the end.
Yeah, 1 in 6 odds to win the game. Definitely seen worse odds than that going on into Pokemon. And you have to play to any out that you can here. Obviously, a couple things going right is all you need to shift the momentum. What an amazing comeback, though. Losing the Weezing on that very first hit and taking it out, I feel, was pretty big there. But that being said, let's get into this match here to see if there is any adjustments being made or if the players are just going to stick to the same old, same old. Regigigas Weezing, of course, one of those combinations that's normally going to be typically the same with the lead, and it is going to be the Charizard and Whimsicott to start here on Gabriel's end as well, just opting to replay this beginning of the game here.
So I think if you're Alberto right now, you have to say, hey, I got pretty lucky to win that game, but if we just make the same moves, like, it's very heavily in Gabriel's favor, right? So my question is, how does Alberto actually adjust? And part of it is maybe you try to deny Tailwind, right? If you go for a max Hailstorm onto Whimsicott, the hail damage will actually pick up the KO onto Whimsicott after turn 1, basically forcing the turn 1 Tailwind. And, Gabriel will probably want to go for something like a Sunny Day instead. So that's, I think, in a mix-up that you could do with that Regigigas. Go for a Hailstorm to just immediately eliminate Whimsicott. That way, if you've eliminated the Whimsicott, there can't be Tailwind, and that means Calyrex Shadow Rider looks a lot better in the endgame because you don't have to rely on actually double protecting and stalling out the Tailwind. Alberto's team is really, really offensive, right? So it's actually very difficult to stall out Tailwind unless you get a couple of lucky double protects like that last game.
Of course, and we see the Regigigas, as usual, going for that first turn max here. It's going to be really interesting to see where he is targeting this time, as well as even if he tries to even go for like protecting that Weezing or something to not risk losing it on this very first turn here. Gabriel, of course, as we saw, maxing that Charizard. Really, really excited to see how this shakes up this time around, with Gabriel opting to do the same thing, but with a potential switch up from Alberto's end.
Yeah, and I think there are actually so many different options that both players can go for here. That Protect on Weezing, as you just called out, Sierra, I think could be a fantastic play, but actually ends up not being Protect, so Weezing might just, feint to this G-Max Wildfire again. But like we were asking, let's see if that critical hit in that last game actually mattered.
The Regigigas going first this time, hitting a huge attack into this Charizard and getting that speed drop, so no more speed tie going forward here. That Charizard hitting back the G-Max Wildfire. This is going to be the moment of truth here.
Oh, it does hang on!
Just hang on, but is it going to... Oh, it gets the berry, so the G-Max Wildfire damage between turns is not going to be taking it out. That critical hit did matter. This Weezing gets to stick around, hit a huge Sludge Bomb into this Whimsicott, bringing it down to the Sash. I was very interested about that lack of Protect here, but Weezing managing to hold on, I mean, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, and so that, definitely changes kind of how we view this game, right? Because in the first game, I was thinking, well, Charizard's so strong. You have the Sun, G-Max Wildfire, Solar Power. Like, that should pick up the knockout, right? But Alberto, as you see, is Weezing is really slow. A lot of players, actually, when they run Weezing plus Regigigas, like to invest speed in Weezing so that after a speed drop, Weezing can outspeed the majority of Pokemon that are used in the format, right? Typically, anything are, like, in the 100 speed tier, just a little bit higher. But in this case, it looks like Alberto's running a lot of special defense bulk. I wouldn't be surprised if you're even something like max HP, max special defense, critically survives the turn, and with that berry does not faint, right? So this means now that Regigigas gets another full powered max move off, and that's really, really important. Weezing, of course, here could protect. I think, with Whimsicott, you're definitely going to want to set up a Tailwind at some point, but it's really smart to switch out right now because the Prankster is shut down, right? With Prankster being shut down, that actually means Weezing and Regigigas can outspeed you, so Gabriel recognizes, hey, I need late game Tailwind. I can't stay in right now. Let me pull out the switch.
Max straight, hitting into that Zacian here. Resisted, not going to be doing too much damage, but of course picking up another speed drop going forward here. Takes a little bit of damage from its own Life Orb. Charizard trying to get a little bit of speed control back, opting for that max Airstream into the Weezing, and is finally going to take it out of this match. A little later than the first game, but still a big moment getting that off of the field here.
Yeah, absolutely a big moment there, and the Zacian now also getting that Intrepid Sword boost because Weezing left the field, and Regigigas with that slow start. So, I think that this has certainly an interesting start to the game because Gabriel's taken a lot of damage on that Charizard and on the Whimsicott as well. But now Whimsicott could potentially position itself for a late game Tailwind, right? Last time, I think part of the issue was that Alberto was able to, stall out 2 turns of Tailwind, and then so you're just one double protect on Calyrex away from fully stalling it out, and then Calyrex can sweep through. This time around, Gabriel actually hasn't even set up that Tailwind. You can just sacrifice the Charizard here, protect the Zacian. If Charizard faints, then you get that free switch into Whimsicott, then Whimsicott can just go for that Tailwind. And this is the problem with Regigigas once Weezing goes down. It often feels like a liability where it sticks on the field, it can do a little bit of damage after max is over, but it just feels like you're often playing a 2v1 against it.
Of course, actually, of course, with that protect, the Calyrex is just going to hit the Astro Barrage and will pick up the KO on the Charizard, finally going down, and is going to get itself a nice little special attack boost in the process, which is definitely scary. It already hits for so much damage, and anytime it picks up a KO, being able to deal more damage is just terrifying. Zacian taking barely damage from this Max Strike from the Regigigas here. Of course, though, as you said, with that Weezing it down, the Whimsicott will have its Prankster again to try and get some of that speed control that was Gabriel's lost so far in this match.
Yeah, and it's just so critical to conserve this Whimsicott for late game Tailwind, right? Part of the issue last time around was that Calyrex was able to really just sweep through very early, or very late, I should say, but with no... the Calyrex was just able to outspeed everything naturally at that point. Now this time around, you get the Whimsicott out, you get that Tailwind up, and it's really difficult to stall out all the 4 turns of Tailwind like Gabriel's going to get this time around, because the Calyrex is already out on the field as well. And so Gabriel, I think, in a really, really strong position in this endgame right now, especially because that Zacian was able to get that attack boost after Weezing left the field as well, and I would assume a +1 Behemoth Blade can just KO Calyrex because it's just a very frail Pokemon. So Gabriel, I think, in a solid position right now. You just want to make sure you set up that Tailwind, and yeah, I'm not sure Regigigas really even has too many options here. Gabriel contemplating a switch here. You know, Zacian does have that speed drop, and so if Zacian's like really, really slow, kind of like what we saw, like maybe Gabriel's afraid that even after a Tailwind, the Calyrex can outspeed, but Zacian is just so naturally fast that I think just going for a Tailwind and a Behemoth Blade here is pretty safe into the Calyrex slot. And yeah, it looks like that's what Gabriel wants that for. From Alberto's end, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, do you protect? Do you switch out? If you protect, then it's a free Behemoth Blade into that slot the next turn, and maybe Regigigas is hoping for something like a critical hit right now onto the Zacian just to have a chance in this endgame.
This Behemoth Blade, of course, connecting right down and taking the Calyrex out of there. Doesn't matter how strong it is if it is just knocked out of this field. The Regigigas going for the Ice Punch onto the Whimsicott, just taking it out of the field. But, I mean, the Whimsicott got to do what it needed to do. It hit the field with that 1 HP. It set up the Tailwind, and I mean, all it needed to do was get that speed control, and now this Garchomp has no speed drop, has the Tailwind, and I mean, we saw yesterday too just how strong Garchomp could be. Even though it's against this Regigigas with the Ice Punch, if they could take out the Regigigas, then there's going to be nothing really threatening it.
Exactly, and Urshifu is good in the late game, but Urshifu doesn't match up very well into either of these Pokemon. You have the Tailwind up. The Ice Punch from Regigigas actually does a sizable amount into that Garchomp, but not enough for a KO. And so I think Gabriel just in a really commanding spot right now. He actually has that Outrage option on Garchomp, which is really cool. It's not something you see very often, but is really consistent here. It means that you don't have to miss a Rock Slide. Guarantees the knockout onto Regigigas if Regigigas gets targeted. Zacian here, you know, safe to go for something like that Sacred Sword. So I think, you know, here the thing is that Alberto does have Protect with both Pokemon. So, you know, maybe Alberto just considers protecting one and then attacking with the other, hoping for something like a critical hit. And it is going to be the Urshifu to start off with that Protect or Detect.
So the Outrage ends up being targeted into that Urshifu, but not going to matter. That Sacred Sword does connect, of course, with that Regigigas, taking it out of the field here, and it is going to be a 2v1 here, and everything in Gabriel's favor here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, smart on Gabriel to just distribute the damage evenly. What's interesting is that Outrage is actually a random target there, but by going for the Sacred Sword on a Regigigas, like maybe Alberto had a chance if you actually protected the Regigigas there, and then the Outrage gets directed into the Regigigas, and then Urshifu close combat KOs the Zacian. I'm not even sure close combat KOs with Zacian being at max HP in terms of investment. So yeah, now the double is going to come out. We are going to see that Outrage for the first time on the stream, and that is going to bring us to a Game 3 here in this set.
And both of the games were so well played, but yeah, just getting that speed control and the end of the match was just absolutely pivotal. We saw in the first match, of course, Alberto managed to stall it out, but of course, that late game. But that being said, let's get on to this Game 3, the game that's going to be knocking one of these strong competitors completely out of this Players' Cup. So Regigigas Weezing, of course, starting off here with the Whimsicott to lead, but instead of the Charizard, opting to go with that Zacian here.
So the thing about Zacian is that it does not get that attack boost immediately because the Weezing is out on the field, right? So that obviously limits its damage output. Surely Regigigas will survive with Behemoth Blade here, but, you know, still take a fair amount of damage. However, this Zacian does not have something like Substitute, which you occasionally see, instead opting for Wild Charge to really try to hit those Kyogres, for example. And so this is definitely an interesting position where you can do a lot of damage with Behemoth Blade, but Weezing, we know, has Will-O-Wisp, and so you could just go for something like a Max Hailstorm and Will-O-Wisp turn 1 from Alberto's end. That gets you a knockout onto the Whimsicott, gets the burn onto Zacian, and definitely puts you in a decent position here. So you can see Gabriel recognizing, hey, Whimsicott might just feint after turn 1. I really need this Tailwind up because if not, Zacian is just going to sweep through me in the next couple of turns. So good awareness to just go for that Tailwind to start off the game.
Of course, Alberto here I mean, there's not much different ways to be starting off with this lead here, so we will see that Regigigas max once again in this game 3. It'll be interesting to see where it's targeting, what seems to be the bigger threat going forward here. That Whimsicott, of course, gets that Tailwind, just getting some speed here. And Zacian with that Behemoth Blade is going to be dealing some good damage here, targeting into the Regigigas and bringing it down to under half of its health. But it's all going to come down to this Regigigas, and it is going to be that max Hailstorm into the Whimsicott. It's exactly the play that you said that you wanted to see. Alberto responded and is going to bring that Whimsicott down to the Sash, but setting the Hail here is not really going to make a difference and is going to be taking this Whimsicott out of here.
Yeah, let's see if Weezing's going for that Will-O-Wisp. It is going to go for the Will-O-Wisp, and it does connect. That's such a critical hit there, just because Zacian otherwise can just run through with damage, right? Especially if you actually eliminate the Weezing. Now you have a Zacian that's spurt and didn't get that attack boost to start off the game, so its damage output is significantly reduced, and it makes me wonder whether or not a Behemoth Blade can actually even KO the Regigigas right now. It looks really, really close, but yeah, there's like a chance I think Regigigas can actually survive another Behemoth Blade now, so definitely a strong start to the game from both players. I mean, you get the Tailwind up. I think I'd prefer Alberto's position more than Gabriel's right now, but I think Gabriel can absolutely manage to pull off the comeback right now. The main thing is basically how do you mitigate these next couple of turns with the Regigigas, and also can you put on the pressure so that Alberto is forced to bring that Calyrex as quickly out as possible. It looks like Gabriel's opting to just, try to double up onto the Regigigas here, and I think that's a strong option. Guarantee a KO onto that. Weezing doesn't do very much in this matchup after the burn comes out, right? So once you knock out Regigigas, you kind of have Weezing out on the field for Alberto's end. It doesn't do very much, and it just sits around and can go for Sludge Bomb at best, but that's effectively it. And so I like Gabriel's decision here to try to just eliminate the Regigigas and try to basically play like a 2v1 matchup going into the last couple of turns where you just leave Weezing on the field, but that's a great max guard from Regigigas to stall out a turn of Tailwind.
And the double into the Regigigas to try and take it out. It's not going to matter if that Regigigas just refuses to go down. Getting that max guard means too there's going to be no Axe Wildfire set out on the field. And then Weezing, it's a Sludge Bomb into Charizard and does poison it. Of course, though, the Charizard does have the Lum Berry, burns the Lum Berry very early on, but at least it won't be taking additional poison damage on top of this Hail Chip going forward.
Yeah, so nice max guard by Regigigas there, recognizing, hey, I'm probably not actually going to get another attack off at this point, so might as well just burn a turn of Gabriel's Tailwind. So Gabriel, of course, going to capitalize by doubling up onto the Weezing there, but if you do that and Alberto, just says, Regigigas is going to feint anyway, I'm just going to go for attack, and actually gets a max strike off here, Charizard would take so much damage. So yeah, in the end, both players just going for their safest options, and we're going to see Zacian start off this next turn with the Behemoth Blade.
Behemoth Blade not doing as much since it is burnt, and is not going to do enough to pick up the KO on the Regigigas. Of course, though, the Charizard covering for that. It's a big, hits a big move into it, and it does pick up that KO, as well as setting fire and residual damage for the turns to come here. But, I mean, that Whimsicott is no longer in the match, and Tailwind is going to be expiring pretty soon. Weezing with another Sludge Bomb gets the poison yet again, and the Lum Berry was already burned. It's so fortunate to get the poison twice in a row. That Weezing, I mean, the Weezing, of course, doesn't do too much left on the field after the burn, but it's definitely proving to be a little bit of a nuisance here.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a nuisance. Gabriel still has Tailwind up, and so Alberto's in a really tough spot, right? You don't really want to bring out that Urshifu out because it's just going to faint from a max Airstream, and then, after the Wildfire and the Hail damage, you're done for the turn. So it's going to be that Calyrex instead, and so one thing that's really big for Gabriel right now is you can actually go for a max Airstream to ensure that you outspeed Calyrex in this end game. Notably, he also brought that Landorus in the back with that Assault Vest, so it looks like he's contemplating, switching in, go for that max Airstream, you get a speed boost, and now you have a Charizard and a Landorus that can potentially outspeed the opposing side. And so I think another consideration you could go for if you're Gabriel is just doubling up onto the Calyrex, but of course Calyrex here might consider going for a Protect. Now, if it doesn't Protect, then maybe max Airstream and Behemoth Blade actually picks up the knockout, but looks like Gabriel is going to want to play it safe here, and I definitely agree with that. This play kind of covers every option. If the Calyrex protects, it feels like you're just actually in a game-winning position. Even if it doesn't protect, and it notably doesn't protect, this is still certainly a fine play.
Taking a lot of damage from that Airstream here as the Charizard and the Landorus get a nice little speed boost. Astro Barrage coming out. Of course, with that Assault Vest on the Landorus, not going to pick up the KO. There's a good amount to Charizard and bringing it down into range where Sludge Bomb from this Weezing can pick it up and eliminate it. But, I mean, that Airstream boost with the Landorus, I believe there's one more turn of Tailwind left as well. So the speed boost that the Landorus is getting combined with that can definitely put a little bit of pressure here.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to play towards this end game. There's still turns of Gmax Wildfire as well, so the Calyrex is going to faint after this turn. And it looks like Tailwind actually just expired, but because of that speed boost on the Landorus, Landorus now will be able to outspeed the Calyrex. So what's really interesting about this end game is both players know the Landorus does not have Protect, right? It's an Assault Vest set. So Alberto might want to try to position himself to get that Urshifu out, to get that Sucker Punch, right? And just knock out the Landorus. Zacian is burned, but that still matches up pretty well here in this end game. So I think from Gabriel's side, you might want to just go for a Rock Slide. He's opting for that Earthquake, but that can be really, really risky. The Landorus, I think, now outspeeds the Zacian. Depends on how the Zacian is actually trained, but we earlier saw that it actually went after Whimsicott. Given that it has max HP investment, wouldn't be surprised if it is pretty slow here. So if you're going for an Earthquake, you have to Protect here. I think otherwise you'll just take far too much damage on your Zacian. Combined with Burn and Hail, you'll probably just faint. I think from Gabriel's side, a play that you can make is just Rock Slide and go for Sacred Sword into Calyrex. That covers for the option of Calyrex switching out. If Calyrex stays in, well, that's your biggest threat out of the way, but oh, he's not gonna go for it, and he just Earthquakes himself!
Big Earthquake here, actually knocking out his own Zacian here. Takes out the Calyrex and the Weezing as well. Earthquake just proving to be too powerful though, and nothing on the field left to stick around.
Wow, I mean, if Urshifu's in the back for Alberto, you just bring it out and Sucker Punch now. I think Earthquaking, especially when you're damaging your side partner, is always risky, and with the Landorus being faster than that Zacian, yeah, just goes down for nothing. I think Gabriel might have been hoping to see a switch out there, right? For the Calyrex to switch out into the Urshifu and then try to snipe it with an Earthquake and a Sacred Sword there. But the reality was that the Landorus is faster than the Zacian anyway, so that doesn't even actually cover for that option. Had Zacian actually just protected there, you'd be in a 2v1 scenario where Urshifu can't deal with both Pokemon at once. And so I think all Gabriel needed to do was protect in that scenario. Now, the reason he might have not wanted to protect was because he was trying to cover for that Urshifu switch in. If you protect and Urshifu actually comes in for free, then you can Sucker Punch the KO the Landorus. But in the end, I think Earthquake plus attacking that turn is maybe the worst possible outcome. Now Gabriel will just faint to a Sucker Punch. So that was a really, really critical turn, and that's why every turn matters so much in Pokemon. And Alberto, in this end now, should just be able to pick off the KO with Sucker Punch here.
Of course, that Sucker Punch coming out, and Landorus is being taken down for Alberto to take this set to a 2-1 and will be advancing on, sadly.